So it takes about 45 minutes to get going, but Dixie Dynamite finally lives up to its title because, damn it, Dixie likes using a lot of dynamite. Alright, so Dixie Dynamite is a 1976 American B movie. Okay, it's directed by Lee Frost, who was sort of active from like the 50s till like the late 70s, making mostly B movies. He also did a few films in the 80s and 90s, but like the 50s to the 70s was like his peak period. And he made like such wonderful classics as The Thing with Two Heads, Policewomen, Chain Gang Women, Fabulous Fanny, to name a few. So you kind of get an idea of what kind of films he used to make. The film stars Jane Ann Johnstone and Kathy McHale as the two sisters Dixie and Patsy. It stars Warren Oates as Mac, who's like probably like the biggest name in the movie. Christopher George is the sheriff, and Wes Bishop is the deputy sheriff named Frank. Alright, so the reason for watching this movie was because YouTube recommended it. Like, I watched this really random 70s police comedy called Hot Stuff, and then YouTube just decided, oh, you're watching like 70s American movies. Here are a few more random things that you've never heard of. And so Dixie Dynamite comes up. So I was like, okay, the name sounds fun. Let's check this out. All right, so plot-wise, the movie starts off with you have Dixie and Patsy, who are these two sisters. Father makes moonshine, so which, if you don't know what moonshine is, I think it's like local made alcohol, in the rural parts of America, I think. Like, I've just seen movies, I've never been to America. So he has like a distillery, or they call it a still, in like his backyard, and he makes moonshine. And he liked to give ladies a whirl, and he will bet you 5 to 10 boys he'll win the love. So the girls go off for some work.
Take his cash over to Mac for me. He's got to get that old bike of his fixed up today.
Okay.
And then the cops show up. Like, the sheriff shows up with a couple of IRS guys, and they say like, oh, we're shutting down everyone who's running a still and arresting them.
Hi there, Phil. What the hell's going on here?
Sorry, Tom. Fellows are from the Internal Revenue Service. They're cracking down on all the stills around here.
The father panics, gets in the car, and you get this pretty decent chase scene, like right off the bat. Anyways, the chase happens. The sheriff and Deputy Frank are chasing him. Deputy Frank is a bit trigger happy, so eventually he loses patience and shoots out the tire of the father's car. And instead of the car stopping, it goes off a bridge, down a cliff, and explodes. So the father dies. So in the meantime, the girls have gone off to meet Warren Oates' character, Mac, who's like he races bikes. So anyway, so they meet him, and then on the way back, finally, like, Deputy Frank shows up, and he's like, oh, your father died in a car. He doesn't tell them that he was the one who shot out the tire.
He lost control of his wagon and he went off the bridge.
What happened?
Well, he's dead.
Then the rest of the movie, like for a while, is the two girls trying to figure out how to make money, because suddenly they're broke. And at the same time, they owe the bank a fair bit of money. And that is where you start to find out like the larger plan, which is like there is a very rich guy in town.
Oh, come on, Phil. I've been slipping your cash under the table for a few years now, and we want to keep that our little secret, don't we? You were in hock up to your ears when I first met you. Go on, take it. Take it.
And his plan is to sort of drive all of these people out of town.
Well, no, Here's what I have in mind. What we're going to do is foreclose on any and all delinquent property. And there's a hell of a lot of it. I made sure these good old boys are short of cash. You see, I've been closing down their stills right and left.
So he's also sort of bribed the local banker because, like, him being the richest guy, like, the bank has, like, 80% of the money in the bank is his. So he tells the banker, like, look, I'm going to take over the bank, and your job is to make sure that all of these girls, like all of these villagers, they don't have any money anymore, and you start asking them for their loans back, and they can't repay it. So, I'll just buy out all their properties and pay off all the loans and, take over the land.
And I also happen to know that this little town is sitting on one of the biggest natural gas deposits in the entire South.
And of course, the girls don't know that. So the girls are still sort of struggling to figure out. And in the middle of that, you get like this one nice bike racing scene because, I mean, you have to give Warren Oates something to do. The girls start getting desperate, so Patsy tries to like steal something, gets caught, and Deputy Frank is the main villain of this movie is actually like Deputy Frank because he's like just a complete sleazeball. So he catches her and then he takes advantage of her. Anyway, they come back home and then the cops have shown up and the bank people have shown up and they're like, look, we're going to auction your house. So the day of the auction, no one has any money. So no one is paying anything more than the basic price. So the rich guy, buys out their property.
All right. Going once. Going twice. Sold to Mr. Dave McCutcheon, $14,200.25.
So eventually they start figuring out like what is going on. They finally decide like, oh, we need to like do something about this. So that is when, the title of the movie finally comes into play, which is they kind of get, they tell Warren Oates' character, just, teach us how to ride bikes. And then they go and steal like a whole bunch of dynamite and guns. And they just start, like blowing up all the rich man's shit.
See you later, Frank.
So that forms like the rest of the movie. So overall, it was more fun than I was expecting it to be. Because I saw a couple of others and they were like, I saw this one thing called Bad Georgia Road, which was really meh. So I didn't have like high expectations from this, but it was way better than, whatever I was expecting it to be. There are a few flaws in the plot, like Warren Oates is the biggest name, but he's also not needed. Like, he's there primarily to teach the girls how to ride a bike, but then you can just have them ride bikes. You can just say like, oh, Dixie and Patsy are very sort of rough and tumble sort of girls and they like riding bikes, and you can pretty much just solve that issue. So you don't need Warren Oates in there. But yeah, he sort of like comes and goes. So even though the poster is like the two biggest faces are like Warren Oates and Christopher George, but it's primarily like Dixie and Patsy and Deputy Frank. Once the first half is mostly just set up, of them like trying to figure out how to make some money or whatever. You get a couple of decent, like you get one chase scene, you get one bike racing scene, but you don't get a lot of action. It's only like, the movie's like an hour and a half, but it's about like at the halfway mark is when it sort of really kicks into high gear and you start getting like some genuinely good like explosions and stuff. And which is like the great thing about watching like older films is like nowadays, of course, everything is CGI, which is not a problem. You really don't want to put people at risk. But especially when you see like a low budget movie like this, like they're actually like blowing shit up. Yeah. Like, so they blow up buildings, they blow up cars, they blow up trucks, and they blow up Deputy Frank, which is actually the reason why I'm reviewing this movie. So I'm not going to spoil it, even though like, yeah, they blow up Deputy, but how Deputy Frank dies is the best part of the movie. Like, if that scene was a little more extended, it would have been even better. The movie ends really well. Like, they do a nice little, you get like a heist scene and, like a little bit of like switcheroo kind of a thing. And that works out pretty well. So overall, it's genuinely fun. Like, the acting is nice. Like, Warren Oates sort of comes and goes. Dixie and Patsy, like the two actresses playing Dixie and Patsy, are good. Deputy Frank is good. The main villain kind of shows up every once in a while. It's a good collection of like character actors. So in general, they sort of deliver on, they know what they're supposed to do. So you, at no point are you watching the film and going like, oh, this is like really terrible acting, because that ruins a movie, more than anything else. So yeah, acting wise, like everything is good. Visually, it's fine. Like there's nothing here cinematography wise that I would go like, oh, that was a well composed shot. No, I mean, shit blows up, it blows up well. It's shot well enough. It's just fine. I wish I would have gotten like a better print, because this is like an SD version. I couldn't find like an HD version anywhere of this film. So yeah, as a recommendation, like if you want to watch like a fun little B movie which has a decent plot and like a bunch of explosions, Dixie Dynamite definitely lives up to its name.